who can participate in these projects, its award criteria, and how universities can apply for capacity building in higher education and how they can submit their applications. He will also share his personal experience of executing these projects and what challenges he encountered during the execution. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Kashif sir. Thank you. Let me share my screen with you firstly. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. You can go ahead, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to all of you. I'm grateful to Kashif Saab and HEC for having me in this particular session, which would help me to share the experience that I had while going through this capacity building projects of higher education in our university. And obviously, it will help others to follow the footsteps and eventually help to improve their institutions as well. As been mentioned about my name, I'm Mohammad Tufail, currently serving as the Provost Chancellor of NLD University, and I'll be talking about the capacity building in higher education, CBHE under Erasmus Program. Actually, if we do talk about CBHE, then it covers different domains, but of course, the focus area is to improve the capacity, to enhance the capacity of the institutions. And if you do mention about the capacity of the institutions, then of course it includes the modernization of HEI whole system, any activity that's having a societal impact. You tend to increase the accessibility of the students towards the university, coming up with some kind of innovation or improvement in the governance. So all these actions would be under the domain of this thing. Now, as a different sort of countries would get participated in these projects of the proposals, so that's why they've been distributed into different regions. And we are in Asia region, and Pakistan is here in the Asia region, in region 5. Okay, this important feature that we need to understand about Erasmus include that there are basically 3 strands that has to be focused upon. And apart from that, there are priorities and the budget system and the publication system. So I would be talking about each of these important segments separately so as to give you an understanding about them. Let's first talk about the strands. Actually, what they've done is that they had basically somehow defined the focus areas being called as the strands. Strand 1 is something which is dedicated for the institutions which are the new arrivals, which have not have a good experience into these kind of activities. So they would be covered under strand 1, and their projects, the proposals has to be in the line that they would last from 24 months to 36 months. And their funding ranges from 200,000 euros up to 400,000 euros. And strand 2 is for those institutions who already experienced one, they've been involved in these kind of activities. So they will have their proposals to last from 24 to 36 months, and their funding ranges from 400,000 to 800,000. And strand 3 is something which is very much different in a way that it more pertains towards reforms, structural reforms, policy formation, and all these things. And of course, in this particular case, the involvement of the ministry, relevant ministry, or any regulatory body, including of HEC, of course, would be needed. And this project is, of course, talking about a wider spectrum. So that's why its range duration is from 36 to 48 months, and the funding being asked, the limit is from 600,000 to 1 million euros. Talking of the priorities, then EU has defined certain priorities that one would submit the proposal against. The Green Deal, digital transformation, integration of the migrants, governance, peace, security, and human development, sustainable growth. Now, of course, out of all these five, this integration of the migrant is not something which is applicable to us. And you could see the rest of the four we are very much aligned with. And this is something more towards the countries where the migration stuff takes place. So this is something which would be for the own sake of European countries. Now, if you do talk about in detail about the Green Deal, it's not something which is unknown to you. I'm sure you're all aware about what do you mean by the Green Deal. It includes the green efficiency, energy, sustainable transport, climate awareness, and all this stuff, environmental challenges would come under the umbrella of the Green Deal. So any proposal that you're submitting about discussing all these things would come under the umbrella of the Green Deal. Digital transformation, where you're talking about the artificial intelligence, distance learning, anything that is connected with the digital transformation would come under the umbrella of this thing. Forget the migrants, I won't talk about it. Governance, peace, any of the institution working onto this particular area, tolerance, gender equality, respect of the diversity, peace and security, would be able to submit a proposal onto this particular area. Sustainable growth and creating job opportunities. You would have a proposal talking about addressing the school dropouts, preventing the brain drain, and all this stuff would come under the umbrella of these priorities. So you have got the freedom of submitting a proposal under any of these four, except of migrant, integration of migrant, a proposal that you can submit about. Now, another thing that you have to understand very much is that the projects that you're talking about are of three types. One is national project, the other one is a multi-country regional projects, third one is multi-country cross-regional projects. So what is a national project? Actually, national project is something like a one nation project, wherein what happens is that HEI from one third country not associated to Erasmus Plus program can apply. Now, Kashif Saab already mentioned this, and I'd repeat it, that there would be three kind of partners. Number one is those of the European Union, HEIs. The second one are called as the third country associated with Erasmus, and that include Turkey, Norway, Macedonia, all these six countries. And those not associated are the ones that have been grouped in different regions, and we are in group 5. So there would be only one country from this group who would be making a consortium with the European Union countries, and they would come up with a national project. Where a multi-regional project is the one wherein you'll have a sort of more, countries, but they all would be from one region. So it means that if you're applying under only 5A or 5, region 5, then there would be multiple countries, no harm. And sometimes what happens is that you'd go beyond the region, multiple regions, then it would come under the multi-country and cross-regional projects. So any of these sort of projects one could apply against. Now, I'll take you back on the strand 1, which was, I did mention, to encourage the newcomers. So this the target group, the newcomers, less experienced ones, individuals would not have had opportunities. They would be eligible to apply under this strand 1. And they may talk about enhancement of the management or administrative capacities. They may like to submit a proposal for establishing of the International Relations Office, enhancing their capacity, reforming in the university governance, or they would focus upon the high quality in the relevant education. For example, they would like to bring new modules or the study programs in their university. They would like to develop the capacity in terms of postgraduate students and academic staff, training courses for the staff. So this is all kind of activities that would come under the strand 1, and I'd repeat, is something which is for the newcomers or the less experienced ones. And strand 2, which is for the experienced one who had already been engaged with these sort of activities, it would be for them, where, for example, they would like to bring innovation in their education system, new learning teaching methods. they would promote the reforms, for example, new institutional level reforms, governance reforms, whatever they'd want to bring in the system. And when you say reforms or the changes do include all sort of capacity building, including the training, lab development, all the stuff. Strand 3, which is about the structural reforms, where there is a requirement of having sort of a policy making organization, a ministry, or an organization like a statutory body sort of thing. It's very much important that their participation is there, and this more focuses on efficient, effective policy making, fostering the national ownership, and all these things, funding mechanism introduction. So any of the proposal or the project that comes under the umbrella of the reforms, structural reforms, would be against strand 3. Now, who can participate? Everybody can participate, but we could be coordinator. The coordinator could be from European Union, third countries associated with Erasmus, and those not associated with Erasmus could be the coordinators. And whosoever the coordinator would be working on behalf of all the organizations in the team. And the partner can be any of these organizations, including you need, in particular case, you need one non-academic partner as well. So that non-academic partner cannot be coordinator, but it can only be a partner. So these are the things. Now, the composition, let's talk about the composition projects. Strand 1 for the newcomers, strand 2 for the existing ones. There should be at least 2 European Union states or third countries associated, those 6 countries. And from each of these countries, there should be at least 1 HEI. And from the third country not associated like ours, there should, of course, it's a national project, so there would be 1 country, but having 2 HEIs. Now, there's another thing which is very much important to understand, that there should be at least 2 HEIs. Now, there is a provision that, for example, the number of educational institutions, HEIs, within the country are less than 5, or any particular institutions having the student strength being more than the 50% of the overall students population in the country, then one of the institution can apply. So of course, we cannot come under, we do not fulfill both of these conditions. So in our case, at least 2 HEIs should be the part of this project. For the multi-country projects, 2 European Union states with 1 from each of the country and 2 eligible third country not associated, with each of the country having 2 members, and the same provisions are there which we did not fulfill. So of course, when we apply, then we have to have at least 2 institutions for our country, and of course there would be 2 eligible countries, because now we're talking about the multi-country. Earlier one was national project. Strand 3, partnership, and here we're talking about the policy making stuff. So here you have to have 1 national competent authority, the ministry responsible for higher education commission, education institution, all this stuff. So that is something that needs to be there. The rest is almost the same. The budgeting of the previous year, just to have a glance, that for Asia region, there were 9 projects of worth this amount for strand 1. And there were 15 projects worth of 12.24 million on strand 2. And there was a 1 project worth of 1.8 million under strand 3. So sufficient amount of money was allocated for these sort of projects. Another thing that's very much important, and that is something wherein people do come up with the mistakes, is the amount of money. You have required to obviously define your work packages, that what you're going to do. And for each of the work package, you have to have the detailed estimations of costs, which is very much important. And people do make mistakes over here, because the evaluators would align the cost details along with your kind of work packages. Are they justifiable or not? And based upon that, they would come up with a decision. Now, award criteria, there are 4 segments. Relevance of the project, quality of the project design and implementation, the project that it submitted about, and the partnership that you're having, its quality and the cooperation arrangement, and this is the outcome, the long-term sustainability of that particular project. So here, Relevance of the project is having 30 points. Quality of the project design and implementation is again having 30 points. Quality of the partnership is having 20 points. And sustainability is also having 20 points. Now, mind you, that for having to be successful, one has to acquire at least 60 marks out of 60 points out of 100 points. First condition. The second condition is that they cannot be left alone. In each of this criteria, one has to have attained at least 50 points, 50% marks, which means 15 out of 30, 15 out of 30, 10 out of 30. So this is again a requirement that you have at least 50% points obtained in each of these 4 criteria. Now, if we talk about the criteria first, the relevance of the project. And again, this is very much important while you draft your proposal, that there should be a relevance of the objectives and the activities with respect to the strand. Is it strand 1, 2, or 3? You have to have a connection with that. This is very much important. The objectives should be SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-oriented. And they should also address the issues relevant to your organization and also highlight the development strategies of your institutions. One important thing, which is the last one, is that you have to make a justification that without having this funding being obtained, you would not bring or be able to bring the changes. So that's why it's important that you would be getting this funding from EU. So this is very much important. It helps a lot. Quality of the project design. Now, here we're talking about the project, the proposal only, that there's a coherence or consistency between the project objectives, methodology, activities, and the budget. Obviously, these are 4 segments that you can see. They should not be traveling in different directions. The objectives are aligned with the methodology that you have defined, the activities within the methodology, and the budget that you estimated. They're all aligned with each other. You have clearly defined the work plan for each of the activities, and there's a relation between the resources and the expected results. But whatever resources you need, you would get those desired results at the end of the day. And they should be realistic and well-defined activities, along with having the timelines, because I did mention of having the SMART objectives. So they'll be having a timelines and clear deliverables and milestones, which should be there. The budget should neither be overestimated nor underestimated. Should be near to a realistic approach to be adopted so as to have a sort of proper budgeting done. The quality control mechanism is very much important. So you have to ensure that you have mentioned the indicators which would, at the end of the day, measure the quality of your project. And of course, the environmental sustainability cannot be ignored, that the project is environmentally sustainable, it is eco-friendly, and it would not disturb the overall environment of the country. Quality of the partnership. Now, you have got different people from different countries and institutions as well. Then the quality of the partnership matters a lot for bringing about a success of the project. So that's why the timeline, the governance structure, the collaboration arrangement, whatever you have, the responsibility are very much defined and they are realistic. Now, what do you mean realistic? I'll talk it about in a moment. There should be an appropriate mix of the organizations, and there should be a diverse range of non-academic partners as well, because in certain cases you need to have one non-academic partner at least there in the group. So that's why there should be that kind of a thing. The tasks that you define are, now I'm talking about the realistic approach of management. So the roles and the tasks that you're assigned are based upon the profiles and the experience of each of the partners. You would see whether they're capable, obviously with mutual discussion, whether they're capable for performing that particular task, and then only you mention and assign that particular task to the individuals. And there's an efficient collaboration mechanism, the communication skills and the conflict resolution. Obviously, there are a lot of partners coming in, and eventually you may lead up to the conflict. So a conflict resolution mechanism is also well defined in your document. And there's an ownership of the project specific objectives by each of the partners, which would be there. So these all ingredients would ensure that all of the partners are equally on board and they are very much aligned with what you would eventually be targeting towards. Sustainability. You see, the funding is either of 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. What after? So it is expected that you have properly defined a mechanism that the project, after the funding is sort of completed, you have a mechanism in place that this project would continue and it would remain sustainable. Whatever things that you need to mention, you have to, that the project would continue in the days to come and the years to come, number one. Number two is its impact to the society or to the people is very much well defined. And also you define a dissemination mechanism, that how would you disseminate your expected results? For example, you would say that you develop brochures and get it circulated to interested parties, stakeholders, or you may have a special website being developed or social media groups or any page on the social media. So whatever you do, you have to have that kind of things clearly defined in your setup. Coming back on the application that you submit, there are three components, three parts, part A, B, and C. Part A is more like your own information of the university and the administration and the applicant. And part B is very much important. It defines what sort of actions you are going to do. It has to be described. And don't forget to mention LFM, Logical Framework Matrix. And this is something that I'd focus upon in a moment. And along with that, you'll have a detailed budget, and there should be a coherence of the budget with your activities. And part C is the key performance indicators, wherein you define how each of the action would be measured. And they should be realistic. Now, this is a format you could see at the top, which is a format of the logical framework matrix, where you'd see that all of your interventions are mentioned in the first column. In the second column, you would define as how would be your these things measured. So verifiable indicators, which would verify that you have done these things, the means of verification, and important assumptions. Sometimes you may define certain assumptions or prerequisites, both different things for each of the activities. So you have to chalk it out. And I may mention that there's several of the examples are available of LFM, which you can see in the Google and various other resources. So while they'd be evaluating your project, they would be looking at all these things, that there is a clear and ambitious proposal that corresponds to the need of your country and your institution. And the priorities, green matrix, green deal, and all these things are very much there being taken into account. And the results at the end of the day would make a difference on several levels. And there's a coherence and effectiveness of your work plan, because you're eventually coming up with several work plans. These are the things that should be focused upon. There shouldn't be any discrepancy between part B, which is actions, with the budget, and part C with the KPIs. Shouldn't have any confusion between tasks, milestones, and indicators. The further details are available. I would not go into detail because of the time constraint. Logical framework matrix, either it's missing or it's not correctly been portrayed. You have to be very much careful about. And as I did mention, that the examples are available. And the need analysis that you're supposed to carry out in the beginning should not be weak. It should be strong much. And certain cases, people would not mention the risks. They would not assess the risk associated with that particular project. And rest assured that each of the project would come across with risks. That's why it's important that you define the risks. And also the mitigation activities, manners. Budget is insufficiently detailed, with staff cost being so high, it's not acceptable. Accreditation not considered. Now, for example, you're coming up with a new program, the new project, you define that what is the mechanism like. For example, in our case, you'd eventually take your courses up to the academic council. So you have to chalk it out that these are the steps involved, and eventually the academic council would get it approved. Or even if NCRC comes in for HEC related project courses, or ECRDC for the Pakistani Council, so you can also define it over there. There are a few more things. Impact assessment indicators need to be spelled out. Equipment for the newcomers are missing, are not properly planned. Or you have not gone for the specialized equipment, which would enhance your capacity. Rather, you had bundled your laptops and photocopiers and office equipment. So this is something that would create problems for you. So go for your specialized equipment if you're talking about the capacity building. And I'd be very quick because of the time constraint. The detailed budget should be there, value for money, and whatever amount of money that you'd get, yeah, for the equipment purchase, to ensure that the equipment is purchased within time. Otherwise, the cost would inflate, and eventually the amount would not be sufficient enough. Staff cost is inflated. And here are some of the sheet examples, which are very much, I mean, clear, and you want to understand it very clearly, and you can get a lot of things out of it. Let me very quickly talk about the Erasmus projects that we had won. We have been associated, I suppose, since 2004 or 5 from in this Erasmus Mundus actually program. We had done several of the mobility programs and also some of the capacity building. We have just finished one of the capacity building proposal, wherein we had developed a composite lab worth of 55,000 euros. And also it's a well-fledged and state-of-the-art equipment are available over there. We also in this particular project, another important component wherein 4 of our students, they traveled to European countries, partner countries, and over there, they attended internship in different organizations, in industries. So this was something very interesting. And altogether, our share was 113,000 pounds for the entity. And there were two partners from Pakistan, because 2 is the minimum. And another project is still going on. And here we are having a development of a center of excellence for the digital manufacturing. The cost is around 43,399. And there are 3 Pakistani partners. This is again another interesting project which would last for next 2 years or so. While doing these projects, we had faced certain challenges, and I would like to make it clear to all of you that the currency fluctuates. What we did was that initially we sort of got the money from them in the euros, we got them converted into rupees, saved in the account, and eventually the euro got up, inflated, and the equipment cost was also going up. So that created problem for us. Anyway, we had managed it by shifting some of the amount. So you have to be very much careful that you'd face the situation of currency fluctuation. Another example is that you'd be given the amount for the travel, and you'd convert it into your rupees, Pakistan rupees, and after while your travel time comes in, the tickets would be very expensive. So that is something that you have to be careful about. PAPRA rules would would create problems in a way that the procurement would be delayed. So that's why you have to plan it well in time, that you'd initiate your procurement process so as within the time, because if it's import of the equipment, then further delay would take place. So you have to be very, very careful about it. In certain instances, the fund would, if you are coordinator, then fair enough. If you're partner, then the fund which would come from the coordinator would become late. It would arrive late. So you have to have alternate avenues. For example, what we did was we got a loan from the university for the time being, and then we got it paid back. So this is something that you could do. Whatever purchases or expenses you do, you have to have the evidences, and the evidence should also be in the desired formats. Now, what happens is that you would make the evidences available, but at the end of the day, your coordinator asks you for the formats in a desired format. So you have to be clear from the first day that what are the desired formats, and accordingly you do the things. If your partners are coming from different countries, you have to look for their security and the logistics support. And God forbid, if you'd have similar situation that we had, pandemic for 2 years, that created a lot of problems for us. Several of meetings and the trainings became online. So God forbid, if this kind of a natural disaster comes in, that you have to be having a mechanism in place that I mentioned about risks. So you have to have this thing in place. The first thing that you're supposed to do is you're supposed to register yourself. As an individual, you'd go to the website, which is available on the screen. You'd go there, you get yourself registered, and also you'll register. After registering, you'd get your user ID, which is usually your password or your email address and a password. And after that, you'd also register your institution. And at the end of the day, your institution will have a PIC number, which is called as Participant Identification Code. And this code is very much important, because when you apply as a coordinator or as a partner, this code has to be fed in. So this is something that you immediately have to do. And there are several of these websites which Kashif have already shared, and I'm again sharing it, which would help you to go through and get the details. This year, the date of this capacity building is gone. It was 8th February. But the new dates would come, I mean, new openings would be somewhere in mid of November. So you got around 7 months. So during this period of time, I would suggest that do make your mind that what you're going to do, number one. Number two, go through the guidelines of the Erasmus Plus, and also try to find your partners in the European Union and in the region. And I'm sure that, and another interesting thing I must mention is that when you go in these websites, then from the website, you can find the partners. So you can start talking with these partners through emails, and eventually within a couple of months time, you would, I'm sure, be able to be your composition ready. And all the thing is that you talk about that what sort of area that you're touching upon. So in the initial couple of months, you'd be able to do this job and get it done, I would say, from tomorrow. So these are again some of the websites. The important website is, of course, this program guide, which would contain all the information. And this has been shared by Kashif Saab, and eventually I'm sure that it will be shared with you again. So a lot of information is available. My email is available on my NID University website. I am available to answer any of your questions later on, whenever you need any help. Thank you very much. I hope I am on time.
So indeed, you are on time, sir. Sir, thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mohammad Tufail, for your valuable insights and sharing comprehensive presentation on capacity building in higher education action of Erasmus Plus program. Sir, we would like to have a Q&A session after Dr. Miriam Gomez present her presentation. So it's a request that you should wait for a few more minutes. Now, I will request Dr. Miriam Gomez, Deputy Director, International Office at National University of Sciences and Technology, Islamabad, tell us about her experience of executing capacity building in higher education project named Building Internationalization in Pakistan. Over to you, Dr. Miriam.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Go ahead, please.
Perfect. Just give me 1 second to put it on. Thank you for the introduction, sir. And thank you, Dr. Tufail, for a very detailed, informative presentation. My name is Miriam Kathleen Gomez, and I work at the NUST International Office as the Deputy Director for Partnerships. Like Sakasha just mentioned, we have recently completed a project which was capacity building in higher education stream on building internationalization in Pakistan. I'll just give you a brief overview of our experience in implementation, in the achievements that we have accomplished, and also a background of the challenges that we faced as we go along. To give you the overview of the project, the basic idea was to build capacity in Pakistan's higher education sector to provide partner universities that are part of this project with tools that will enable them to engage with other universities internationally. I'm flashing here the QR code for the website of the project that was developed during the project. All the information about the project itself, the work packages is all here. So if you require any information, please feel free to save this QR code and save the link as well. The project itself had 8 different partners and 1 associate partner. So 4 partners were from European university. They included Cardiff Metropolitan University in UK, École Centrale Nantes in France, University of Bologna in Italy, and University of Salamanca in Spain. For our associate partner, we had British Council. And from Pakistan, including NUST, we have Lahore University of Management Sciences, Lahore, Comsats University, Islamabad, and Pakistan Institute of Fashion and Design, Lahore. So all of us made this project, submitted the proposal, and then implemented it in our institutions as well. The project itself was divided into 9 different work packages. 6 of these work packages were based on specific outcomes, specific strategies. As it is relayed on the screen, the first work package was focused on development of international strategies for each and every Pakistani partner. The second work package was focused on development of work packages for workshops for leaders and staff that is involved with internationalization activities. The third work package was to develop an online learning platform that would be available to not just the involved universities, but also national universities if they wish to learn about internationalization and collaborations with foreign universities. The fourth was to integrate an intercultural program on the 4 campuses of the universities that were involved. The fifth work package was to support the fourth one, and which was to open centers of internationalization at the campuses of the Pakistani partners. The sixth one is of most importance, and I'll go over the slide again once at the end, which was creation of a toolkit. So this toolkit we generated throughout the project, and the aim of the toolkit was to create a guideline for all national or Pakistani universities to get information about how to build an international office and how to build strategies, how to internationalize their campus, and how to approach foreign universities for other collaborations. There were 3 other work packages as well, which we would call them as supporting work packages. Does not mean that they were not important. They were equally important. They were based on the quality monitoring of the rest of the work packages, dissemination of all the outcomes for be it on social media, be it on national or local news. And the last one was the management. So this was the most important group that oversaw all the other work package outcomes and how all the activities were being implemented across the partners. I'll go one by one. So the first work package was development of an internationalization strategy and training of the international office members to produce a strategy document. The first step here was review of the current policies, and that led to generation of a proper strategy at all 4 Pakistani institutions that were involved. In the first instance, we trained about 18 individuals from the international offices, and that led to development of the strategy. The important point here, which I feel was a huge accomplishment, was that all these strategies were properly vetted by respective universities and institutions by either pro-rectors or rectors, and they are now becoming part of the university-wide strategy itself. An important aspect of this work package was that we received, as a Pakistani university, we were twinned with a European university, and we call this program the twinning program. And we received mentorship while we were developing not just the training for the international office, but also the strategy itself. So this, I felt, was a huge accomplishment for at least our universities. The second work package was continued professional development of all the staff, not just the international office staff, but any staff or faculty member that would be associated with internationalization. The first step of this CPD program was to train the trainers. So international offices themselves and maybe focal persons for internationalizations at each university were trained on 4 different topics that pertain to internationalization. These were implementation of the strategy that was developed earlier on by the 4 universities, how to manage and develop high quality partnerships, understanding of academic recognition and recognition of staff mobility, and then how to procure external funding. So these were the 4 topics that we were trained on, and then we moved on to the training in the next session of more university staff and faculty members. In each of these 4 sessions that happened in the first half, more than 20 participants from each university were present, and that was a huge accomplishment. And as the second phase, when we started cascade trainings throughout the Pakistani partners, The topics particularly remained the same, which was starting from strategies, partnerships, recognition of academic and staff mobility, and then focus on external funding. The most problematic challenge here was getting the staff in one place and delivering the training as the Pakistani partners were co-delivering it. So like you already know that we are placed in Islamabad and some of our partners are placed in Lahore. So getting all the partners in one place was a challenge, and the universities had to put in a bit of support to help us coordinate these initiatives. I'm very proud to say that in total 207 participants were trained under these 4 trainings across the different universities in Pakistan. The third work package was development of an online learning program. So this was to reach out to other faculty members that are not directly involved in internationalization, but still hold some value or are at the receiving end of internationalization. Again, similar topics were decided. And an online course was developed. This course runs for less than an hour and ends up with a lot of different questions, just like a Coursera course. I've also put in a QR code for your assistance. If you would like to undertake this course, all you have to do is get registered and watch the videos and end up with a certificate at the end. This module was registered across the universities in Pakistan and at least the partners, and over 800 people registered, while about 630 individuals completed these online modules. The fourth work package was on cultivating an internationalized campus that I feel was very successful. So this started off with having sessions on any aspect of internationalization. These sessions ran on either having just a webinar about an international scholarship, for example, Fulbright, or having Erasmus delegates come to our campuses, talk about the Erasmus Mundus programs. So it was a huge array of activities that we did together. We also try to include a student-led component in these, and we introduced a Be International award, and this allowed the students to get involved with all the international activities that were taking part at these centers to support the internationalization of the universities. Again, I feel very proud to tell you that we have nearly 2,000 participants across the seminars, webinars, and events that were held, and 77 external speakers were hosted by the Pakistani partners across the centers of internationalization. The fifth work package, like I said before, was in support of work package 4. We established Center of Internationalization at all the 4 partner universities, and they were supported with procurement of laptops, smartboard, and VR equipment. One major challenge, like Dr. Tufail also mentioned, was the procurement, and following PEPRA rules did become a challenge. Like you would already know, some of the universities that were part of the Be International Consortium, some were public and the others were private university like LUMS. So with the difference of governance policies, it was a little difficult to get the equipment in all 4 partner universities at the same time, but thankfully we managed to do that. After the centers were established at the end of 2021, since then we have had about over 2,200 visitors since then, and we hosted over 90 activities across these centers. The next and the most important work package for us was work package 6. This was building of the Be International toolkit. This toolkit again was launched a month ago in December 2023. The toolkit was launched and the event was graced by the attendance of Professor Dr. Mukhtar, Chairman HEC. Again, I've put in the QR code if you would like to follow the toolkit. It's on the slides shared. So in this toolkit, you will find the guidelines to initiate internationalization at your campuses, to build international offices, and to support internationalization that is being done by the faculty members across the university. There were a lot of unexpected outcomes of the project, which are not somehow tangible, but are very important for us. The first and foremost was the network that we built during the project with the European partners and with the Pakistani partners. I'm not just going to say that it was international collaboration that was important, but also the national component was equally important and supportive. For example, our international offices, they are now linked. And whenever we have a problem, it is very easy to go to each other and ask for support and get advice on important matters. If we talk about international networking, it's very easy now to talk to the 4 partners that we have throughout this project, throughout these 4 years. And it has helped us a lot in building further connections and applying to further more grants. For example, we have been applying to Erasmus fundings and also for British Council scholarships under the PARC UK Education Gateway. The third, and again, not something to be forgotten, was exposure that our staff, faculty members, and students received throughout this project. Not those who were being trained or were involved in some of the activities, but also others who were just bystanders at one point, but then also got involved towards the end of the project. So I feel those are unexpected outcomes of any international activity that is undertaken by a university. So that's all from my side. I try to be very quick and not take too much time. I'd be happy to take any questions about the project, or if you would like to know about the Be International initiatives that we have taken, I'd be happy to talk about those as well. I'll leave my email address in the chat box, so feel free to connect with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Miriam, for sharing your experience of executing such an interesting capacity building in higher education project. I'm sure that this experience will not only help NUST and the involved Pakistani universities to build the right environment for internationalization, but other Pakistani universities will also benefit from it and build a conducive environment so that international students may select Pakistani universities as their study destination.